Welcome to the SIWIKE podcast, the only podcast that shares the stuff you didn't know you needed to know about jobs, careers, and life. The SIWIKE podcast, the stuff I wish I knew earlier.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the SIWIKE Stuff I Wish I Knew Earlier podcast. We're here with one of our new guest hosts, Shalini Nagrani, and she comes to us with a background in computer science, in tech, just like myself. And she also is working in consulting, again, similar to myself. And she's also pursuing a master's in psychology. Well, I'm not doing that, but I'm very interested in psychology and things like that. So if you can elaborate a little bit more about what you're up to now, and then we'll get back into what we were like as a kid and the journey there. So what are you up to now these days?
So these days I'm an IT consultant. I work for CGI on the Ottawa region. So most of our clients are federal government. It was something that kind of combines a lot. Like if I look backwards, it combines a lot of things that I've done in the past. So computer science. So I have my minor in computer science, and then I have undergrad in math and an undergrad in business. And then what I did is kind of use all of those things plus a lot of my experience along the way to get me to project management. And then I combined that with agile. And so today I use all of these components or these pieces to kind of piece together something that we're building for our clients. So these days I'm working on building new ITM or new technology infrastructure systems for the federal government.
Sounds good. So if we can go back into time and what was Shalini like as a kid? So what were you like growing up? Were you kind of shy and introverted like me, or did you have kind of a different story or a different path growing up?
Yeah, so so interesting story is I grew up in Zimbabwe. So I was born and raised there. And as a little kid, I had two younger brothers. And so my mom had three kids, and we were all within five years of each other. And so my mom spent a lot more of her time on my brothers because they were younger, and I had my grandparents around me. And so I became this really independent, kind of extroverted, curious. Like I had a lot of curiosity and exploration, and a lot of what I loved to do was just new things, like new challenges, new experiences, new anything. If it was new and different, I wanted to do it. I always wanted to go to other people's houses for sleepovers. I didn't like when they came to my house because it's just my house. I preferred going out and exploring.
Yeah, so can you talk to us a little bit about some of those curiosities and the exploration you have? So maybe tell us one of the earliest or fondest memories you have about like finding out something new and figuring it out, or whatever it is that you did when you found something new.
Yeah, so one thing, when I was a kid, my dad used to travel a lot for business. He was a serial entrepreneur, but back then he owned a material store, and he used to get a lot of his supply all over the country. And every time he would travel, he would buy me or bring me a Barbie doll that was from a certain country. But it was one of the ones that had sort of the cultural dress, and then they'd throw some food pieces in it, and then they'd have like a little sticker that would tell you this Barbie is from India, the capital of India is Delhi, this food, the national food is this, and this is what they wear, and here's like I'm sure nowadays these are probably like apps or a QR code, but back then it was a little piece of paper. And the curiosity piece comes in as I remember we were a big sports, when I was a kid, we were a big sports family. So we would watch like soccer, like World Cups and all of those things. And anytime a country would come and I'd have the Barbie doll, I would always try to match it and say like, oh, but her eyes are brown and those guys' eyes are brown. So like they're from the same country. So it was this, I think that's one of the earliest things I remember in terms of like how the curiosity piece and the learning piece kind of like they go together. And the other piece that now that I look back on it is you just find it in all parts of your life. So you see it like your parents, like your brothers are watching the soccer game, or your mom is watching her soaps, like her TV soap opera kind of things, and they're all from different countries. And then this piece. And so a lot of what my curiosity was always like, how do I match the existing knowledge that I have to what I'm seeing right now in the future? Like, how do I learn that thing that they're doing? And I'd always be that kid in any kind of sports event or any soccer match or anything. I'd always ask like a million questions, like, why did they stop it? Why was there a red card here? And why did they do this? And what does this mean? I was that question kid.
Sounds good. So it's kind of well, my son is like that in movies, and he's asked a ton of questions, somewhat to the point of being annoying, but at least you can definitely see that spark of curiosity in there. So tell us a little bit about the interest in computer science, right? Because it seems like there's a lot of curiosity. Dad's an entrepreneur, but you're the oldest in the family, so you're a bit of the trailblazer along that. So how does computer science or technology kind of weave its way into the interest level?
So like in high school, I had no idea that I was interested in technology. All I knew was that I was good at math. Like
Okay.
I loved math. It's just kind of how my brain worked. And then I knew that I did not want to write any papers. Like
Okay.
I was not a writer. It's ironic where we are today.
Yeah.
But the whole thing was I knew that I had this, like, I loved business and I loved economics and those kinds of pieces. And I essentially how it worked out is that I knew that I was going to go to university. That was just something that in my house, it was something that we all talked about.
Okay.
And one of the kind of early decisions or early pieces of information where I decided was for some reason I knew that I wanted to go to New York City.
Okay.
So I had this passion early on for technology in terms of movie making and films and film production. So I used to I would, for example, my brothers were on the basketball team in their high school, and I would film them and then create like a montage with like Space Jam music and then
Cool.
put them all in the background. And this was like Windows Movie Maker in
Right.
2004 when it first came out, and it was so exciting that you could like cut and paste clips. And so I always knew I wanted to do something with film, but being being Indian, being from this culture, being from Zimbabwe, and being in the first, like being an immigrant to this country, there wasn't really a viable option for your parents. You can't go say, I want to go get this arts degree.
Right.
So I found a way to combine it with business, and the best place in the world to do that was NYU. And so what that New York University, what that led me towards was I switched into a private high school. I took the SATs. I did all of that. Unfortunately, I didn't get enough SATs to kind of make it through.
Okay.
But I knew that as an Ontario high school student, I had to apply to Ontario universities. And so the funny story is that you pay $100 or something, and you pick 3 schools.
Mhm.
And so my number one school was Queen's because I knew that okay, I wanted to go into finance because you need to understand numbers, and movies take money to make. And if you are a finance and a commerce person,
Right.
then maybe you can be. I never wanted to be an actor or a director. It was more like the producer, more like making it all, the pieces fit together.
Right.
And so with commerce, I thought that those people at some point would have an opportunity to go into film, and it was a good way to kind of sell it to my parents and say, look, it's a business degree. And then what happened is I again, with the writing piece, I had to write an essay and to get into Queen's, and I didn't write the essay and I didn't get into Queen's.
Oh, no.
And then the other schools were so it was a toss up between Wilfrid Laurier. I have a business degree from there, and then University of Waterloo, I have a math degree. So it was a combined co-op program. I didn't really know anything about technology until maybe first or second year is when. So Waterloo has back then BlackBerry had a huge presence at the Waterloo campus, and I made it kind of a goal or a dream or something, is like, I want to work at BlackBerry. And it's kind of that that point where I said, this is the big thing. I don't know when it will happen. It might take 10 years,
Right.
But that is where I want to go. And the reasons were kind of related to a little bit of prestige was there. Like there was this whole, I want this is an industry champion in our city. This is where all of the students go. A bit of recognition as well, and a large part of it was also salary. Back then, BlackBerry was paying a lot more to co-op students than most of the other companies, and so that was also a key decision point. And that's how I found out about technology. And then I started getting in more into computer science and understanding more about how all of these pieces fit together. And you'll see the common theme for what happens in my life is I'm always trying to connect things and always trying to create a puzzle and fit it together. And at that time, the technology piece was through kind of exposure, or through kind of everyone else around me was involved with BlackBerry. And so how do I become a part of this thing? How do I want to be a part of this group. I want to belong to this piece.
Cool. So it sounded like, I mean, it seemed like a natural progression, a couple of stumbles and failures along the way. So maybe in a different episode, we'll talk about like, how do you overcome that when you had your heart set on like NYU and didn't get in, then Queens and didn't get in, and then now you're kind of have this newfound area interest, and then it kind of connects the dots to kind of where you are right now. But I'd love if you kind of shared a little bit about, okay, you end up at BlackBerry. Well, spoiler alert, that sort of thing. But talk to us a little bit about that path. So did you graduate already or not? And how did you end up in kind of that kind of
so yeah
goal?
So I was really lucky that in my very first work term, I actually landed my position at BlackBerry. So I landed my first co-op term there, and the thing that I did is it's kind of like I knew that was my purpose, that this is the whole point of co-op, is to experience the thing that you think you want to do after you graduate. And so I knew that BlackBerry was it. So every time there was a BlackBerry position that I remotely qualified for, even 50% of the way, I would apply. So somehow I managed to land 3 or 4 interviews, which for a first year back then was a big deal. And then I landed an offer in the first round. And so from there, it kind of spiraled and spoiler alert also is I did all of my work terms at BlackBerry, and then I graduated there and I worked part-time there while I was in school as well. And it was what I realized now, I have the words to kind of describe. So back then, what I was looking for is just a place where I get to learn and experience and understand and kind of test things. Because I had no idea. I think my second work term was actually in a marketing department, but we dealt a lot with the finance department. And remember, my goal was I really want to be in finance. And I've met some finance people in the real world, and I saw what they did on a daily basis. And I could not do that. I was almost a bit upset. I was like, but this is what I wanted. How can it be so boring? Like, how can it be so isn't there more? Or isn't there more? Like, why do they call it forensic accounting when it's just looking through a bunch of paperwork? I thought there was more. And so the lesson there was co-op really showed me a lot of what I did not want to do. Like I knew, because I did that, my first role was kind of in testing, my second role was in marketing, a little bit of finance on the side, and then I knew I didn't want to do any of those things. And then my last role was kind of operations, technical writing, And that I found really fascinating. And that's when the aspect of film kind of came back in, is because with BlackBerry, one of the departments I worked in was the repair department. And this is around the time when they were opening up stores. So this was when we first had the first Apple store. The BlackBerry was also thinking about opening their stores, and they actually did in Indonesia. And so I would work with the Indonesian team to create these videos that, because they don't need to be translated, because it's just, here's an assembly and here's a disassembly, and then they would send it to the repair stores. And the from BlackBerry, it's like I got to add it back in, that idea of film, and it was coming back, and it was again learning and exploration and those things. And then the next part of kind of the journey towards it is I realized my focus was, I just want to absorb as much information from everyone around me. And so my curiosity, or this questioning thing, I would just go to meetings and ask, so you're a project manager. How long have you been a project manager? What have you done? And what I didn't realize at the time, and what I realize now, is situation and context. There's some people that are really open to having those conversations, and then there's some people that are not. So it was a bit of, how do I, through trial and error, I got better at understanding who are the people who were open and who are the people who are not. But it's and that's kind of how I found out about project management. Is someone said to me, well, I'm a project manager, and I asked them, what do you do? What does that even mean? I've never heard about this, and I have a whole business degree. Like, what is this?
Yeah, I think that's amazing. What I took from that is one, you probably dodged a couple of bullets, in the sense from that full finance thing, well, at least on that kind of Queen's degree, where if you ended up doing that might have been a pretty challenging work path. And then you also made the comment before about a little bit of irony, where you didn't want to write papers, but you don't find it a role as a technical writer, where all you're kind of doing is writing. And I love how you were able to kind of get back in to kind of film, and it's sneaking its way back in, even to create some videos. And I didn't know it was for Indonesia, so hopefully they had some good videos over there. Yeah, and then the last bit was also on when you talked about like the situation and context, where what spoke to me is kind of soft skills and the development of that, where I mean, you don't really get that in school, right? At least not in the class. You get it in kind of the student clubs or the organizations that you might want to do outside of the classroom. But those are so important and so foundational for a lot of folks, that if you can learn them and pick them up earlier, then it definitely has a profound effect on life. So yeah, so you were able to talk to the PMs that wanted to talk, and obviously skirt past the ones that weren't really open to sharing their life stories, that sort of thing. And then you end up in like product management and then consulting. So walk us through a little bit about the PM. The PM to PM, the project management to product management, and then the path to consulting.
Yeah, so after BlackBerry, what happened is kind of around, let's say like 2013, 2012 was when they started having their layoffs. And so that's when the organizational culture changed from this place where everyone is just excited about the technology, about what is the new things that we're putting out, to a space where I'm really worried about my job. I really don't know if like my friend was laid off last week. I don't know if this is going to happen to me next week. And there was a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear in that culture. And me being a new grad, a new student, I'm still in my learning mindset. I think, oh, if I get laid off, I'll just find another job. I'm just going to learn here while I can. And so I never clicked in or tuned into the other perspective. I just couldn't understand, like, why is someone so afraid of me asking all of these questions? And I didn't realize that it can come across as a threat, or like I'm worried about my job. Why do you need to learn about the details of my job? Like, so you can do it. And if you're going to take my job, and I'm a new grad, so you probably are cheaper to BlackBerry than I am. And so I quickly realized that that environment was not where I wanted to be. Like I need new things and new engagements. And what happened is I got one of the people that left BlackBerry, had lunch with them, and they were actually they just got a job at another company, but they still had a connection from another from a construction company in the GTA area in Toronto. And so I went to I said, oh, I'm looking, like that would be interesting. And then it was for a project manager or project coordinator kind of role. And then it was for a construction company. And
Right.
so with this construction company, what I did is so I learned what project management was with them. Through them, I got my PMP. So while I was working, I was studying at the same time. And one of the reasons why I think that I found the project management professional exam really valuable was because I would study my book or I would study the text for the test. But then the next day I would try to apply it, like I had a whiteboard and I would try to apply it to the situation I'm in. So, for example, I have this, we used to do insulation, like foam insulation that's in our walls, or my department was commercial. So I'd have a client that's say like a condo building in downtown Toronto. And then I would use like a project management tool, say like a work breakdown structure. Okay, how does this work? So we start with the foundation, we start with the walls, and then we can put the insulation, and then all of these things. It's kind of how do you sequence it out? And so that's how I found really relevance to the project manager stuff. But what I realized slowly is that once you learn about insulation, there really is nothing else to learn about insulation. Like the coolest thing about insulation is that it's pink. Like that is the best thing. And then pretty much it's just foam. It's just stuff that is like it doesn't change much. It shouldn't change much. Even like building codes don't really change. Maybe one line will change in like 4 or 5 years.
Right.
And so I realized that I miss technology. Like I miss the only thing that I had that was fast and every day you'd have to learn things. The only experience I had of that was technology or the IT industry. And now I had my PMP, and so now I was qualified to look for like project coordinator, project manager, or bigger roles. And so I found this way. So I knew that there was something missing in this construction job, and then I needed a bit more. I want to say and not challenge, more so new stuff. I needed new stuff to learn, and knew not just about people and the way processes work, but the actual thing that you're delivering, the product. And so I went and I found this job through LinkedIn. Actually, I reached out to a recruiter and an HR manager at a company. And then within about 30 days, I was hired, and then I had that. So that's one key thing I found in my career is with smaller companies, their hiring processes are much shorter than with larger companies. For example, with CGI, I was talking to them for about a year before I found this position. So it's very different things. And then so I went back into technology. This was a small kind of company in the Toronto area, and we would do solar panels, technology for solar panels and wind turbines. And through them, I learned about Agile and Scrum and all of these other methods. I realized project management is just one operation, one way in the huge umbrella of operations. And essentially, I think of it as it's kind of like you have your tool belt, and your PMP is one tool, your Lean Six Sigma is one other tool, your Agile is another tool. And then in a certain situation, especially in consulting, I might need to pull out 3 little things from each of those tools and use them all in the same day. And then from there, kind of what happened at that startup is it was sort of a point where I didn't see any growth in the company. There wasn't any next step or anywhere for me to go next. And after that, it was I had an opportunity at Capital One, so the credit card company, and they were downtown. They were in North York, and then I moved to North York in Toronto and stayed with them for some time. And with them, the point was kind of an operations sort of role, working with their Costco and their Hudson's Bay credit cards and helping support their marketing department. But I was kind of the operations support in the back end, sort of behind them. And with Capital One, it was a really awesome time. It was a lot of growth. There was a lot of movement. It was really fast paced. But then in my own personal life, I realized that I wanted to move. I realized that I didn't want to live in a condo for the rest of my life. At some point, I had a partner at the time. Him and I were thinking about maybe we want a house. And then the funny story is that when we came to Ottawa, we just came to visit a friend, to go to the spa, to go for a holiday, and he had a townhome, and he said, "Oh, do you want to come see our model home?" And I said, "Okay, sure." Like on the way to the spa, not thinking. And we saw his house, and we saw what he was getting, and we're like, "You can get this house for how much money?" And I don't know what it was, but so that was Saturday, and then we were in the spa and we were all taking a nap, and my now husband, he has an epiphany, and he says, "We should do it. We should invest in a house." And I was like, "Oh, okay, you're just in the spa vibes, like you're just dreaming.
Yeah.
It's okay. Tomorrow this is a show." But the next day we actually went back and we signed up we bought the house.
Wow.
And spoiler alert, this is this house where we live in today. And from there we knew we didn't know anything about the Ottawa job market, anything. Like on the drive, we were kind of Googling and Ottawa has an IT industry. Who knew? And then I remembered Ottawa had an office, a BlackBerry office, and I knew some colleagues. And so I reached out to them, and they explained kind of the market, how it was working, just through LinkedIn, some kind of messages there. And then after that, it was kind of really fast, but I don't know how to describe that moment. It was just like you had this gut feeling and you knew that this was the right next step, and it just kind of followed it.
Right.
And everything else kind of worked out, which
some people call that like the law of attraction and stuff like that, or different sort of mindsets. But I think that's so interesting how on a whim, a day at the spa. So everyone, make sure you go take a nap at the spa, because you might have the greatest epiphanies there. But yeah, so you end up in Ottawa, and then obviously you end up in consulting to various firms. But I'd love to spend a minute talking a little bit about the other different parts. So it's your master's in psychology, right? So that seems to be a little bit of an oddity around that. So how does that happen along the way?
Yeah, so what was happening is around the time I was in North York in Capital One, so this is probably 5 or 6, let's say like 2018-ish. So I knew that, like in my job, I felt that I was performing and I was achieving things, and I was getting to a place where I was delivering multiple things or deliverables. But I always felt like there was kind of something else, like there was a hole, or there was something kind of there that wasn't being fulfilled. And I don't know, it's just, you knew that this wasn't the end game, like this wasn't the final thing.
Sure.
And I was just sitting at lunch with a colleague one day, and they told me about this program. So my master's is through Yorkville University, which is a New Brunswick based program. It's all online, and this was online in 2018 was a bit more nuanced, or a bit more flashy, a bit more innovative back then than it is right now. And so I thought, okay, let me try this thing. So I didn't want to really commit to a master's right away. So, and I didn't know, like I had no idea if I could write papers, because I knew that I had never written papers in my undergrad. And so I was like, I didn't even know if I had an undergrad that would be a prerequisite. So there's all of this stuff. But the main thing was, I always knew that I had a fascination with psychology in the sense that any kind of documentary I would watch, any podcast, any book that wasn't kind of fiction, or even fiction books, there would be an element of like psychological analysis, or how does the brain work with all of these things. And initially it just started kind of as a way to figure out more about how my brain works and how my mind works and why I am the way that I am. And that's really where the psychology pieces all started. It's like if you read about extreme situations that people put themselves in, or that people are forced to be in, like car accidents or anything in the true crime space, you realize the kind of the spectrum of psychological stuff. And then you in your own life, you start to see, oh, I have this trait, I don't have this trait. And you can see along the spectrum, and it helps you better understand your cognitive abilities. And then from there, what I did is I took a Coursera course, because I realized a master's is a lot of money. And I said, okay, if I actually do this free course and I actually take the time to actually do the homework and listen to the lectures, and I'm not getting anything out of it, then maybe this is something I truly like. Maybe this. So my idea was to experiment with myself. Like, so am I actually going to do something if I don't get any? Do I like it enough,
right,
to sacrifice like my evenings or my weekends to do this thing? And it was amazing. I took this course on positive psychology, which I had no idea what that was. And then I took this, and it was just every single thing felt like it applied to my life. Like every experiment, I felt like after the class, I was talking to people and I was saying, did you know that this was a thing and that was a thing? And like, there was this experiment. And after a while, my friends started saying, like, it's okay. We don't have to talk about like science
right.
all the time. And so how the psychology thing happened is, I first started as this is the one thing in my life where I said to myself, I'm not going to care about the outcome. There's no achievement here. There's no end level with this. This is just purely because I like doing it. And the moment I stop liking it, then I can definitely stop. Like there's no as an IT consultant, psychology doesn't really help me. It does not. It's not gonna. It might help me in like a kind of like an indirect way, in that I can read people better and I can better understand. But an MBA is obviously going to be more credible in my industry than or a master's of science than a master's of arts and psychology. So that almost was a little bit of an attractant to me, in the sense that most of the things I'd done in my past were for some sort of credibility or some sort of step up or some sort of achievement. But this thing was this, and it was just for me. It was this thing that I wanted to do to understand more about how I work and what it is that I want. And in the last 4 or 5 years, it's evolved, and every course that I've taken, I've just loved it, and I've just been excited to do. Like I've never written so many papers in my life. I didn't know I could write, and I've never done so much reading in my life. Like I never read textbooks in my undergrad. I would do like math homework, but this psychology thing, I think all of us need something in our lives that we just do because we like to. And that's it. It doesn't have to translate. And even if it does translate, that's just a nice to have kind of. Um, and I honestly don't know where I'm going with this psychology degree. So when I if I graduate, when I graduate, it's a master's in counseling psychology, so I could be a registered psychotherapist. But I honestly have no idea if that's what I want to do with this degree. I love my job, my day job, my IT consultant. So I don't really want to give that up just yet. So this is one of those things that maybe if I was planning or doing goal planning, I wouldn't put the masters on there. It's more of a thing that that took me a lot of reflection and a lot of time, and to be able to listen to that feeling of I know I enjoy this.
Right. And I think you have that where a lot of folks that I work with, they're missing that part of like, what do I want to do for the sake of wanting it? Not because it's letters after the end of my name, or like because my parents said so, or like everybody around me thinks that I should, but what is just for me? So I'm glad that you were able to find that. And then, well, hopefully we'll be able to do like a deeper dive in a whole bunch of subjects, because I think there's a lot to unpack there. But as we kind of close off the episode, I'd love if you could share a little bit of your SWIKE, the stuff I wish I knew earlier. If you could go back in time and maybe plant the seed for younger Shalini to understand, like during maybe some turbulent times in your life, what are maybe your top two or three SWIKE that you might share with yourself?
Yeah, so the first one I would say is I tend to take a lot of my stress personally. Like I'm very slowly learning to separate myself from the situation. So the first thing I would tell myself is trust, is trust yourself, and trust your future self to be able to handle tomorrow's problem, because if you've got today's problem, your future self can manage that in the future. So that was one I wish I embodied a lot earlier in my life. Another one is kind of, and the second one I'll leave with is all of it is exactly what you were saying, is all of us need this thing in our lives that is not, it can be tied to something external, but the point is that it intrinsically makes us happy, and that takes a lot of experimentation to find, unless we're one of those lucky people who just know. And sometimes even they have to experiment with the specifics. So the key message I would love to have known earlier is experimentation is totally okay, and it's all right to be on this path, for example, towards finance, and say, I want to be a financial analyst, and then you do it and you see and you're, nope, this is not it. And it's so okay to say no. But it's also okay to be upset about that no, because you've given so much effort and so much time. And it's okay to kind of grieve that and then kind of close the chapter a bit. And then that giving yourself that time allows for you to find something new. So it's okay to be sad and then pick yourself up again and then move on to the next thing.
For sure, and I find that folks in tech, and we were chatting a bit about this off air, where like computers or engineers, that sort of thing. I mean, we don't like to talk about feelings and emotions and stuff like that, right? And but that's what makes us human. So being able to talk to someone about it, whether it's a close friend or family member or a therapist, right? There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, and I encourage everyone to take care of their mental fitness as much as they do their physical health, right? Like you're out of the gym, you're running laps and doing whatever, but when was the last time you kind of trained at kind of the mental gym and take a look at your own thoughts and are those ones that serve you, or do this help you, or are you like beating yourself down with all the disparaging remarks that you make for yourself, right? So I encourage folks to do that, and then if they don't take stress personally, it's probably one of the key things that will help you with that. And then if you can also counteract that with finding that thing you love. I think that's awesome, because I've been talking to a lot of folks recently about burnout for whatever reason, kind of in that frame of mind with COVID and everything, and one of the quotes that I love related to burnout is that we don't burn out because we do too much. We burn out because we do too little of what lights us up, right? So if there's a lot of people out there that are super busy and they do a lot of stuff, but they're not burnt out, myself included. I do a lot of different things, but I think I'm not burnt out because a lot of the stuff I love, or at least I found something to love about what I do as well, right? So I encourage everyone to explore what that is. And if you don't know, well, try something new this weekend and see if that could be it. And then every weekend explore until you find that one thing. And if you never find it, well, at least every weekend you're doing something cool and interesting that you're curious about. That sounds like a pretty good weekend anyway. So thanks so much, Shalini, for joining us and sharing your story.
Thank you.
I'd love if you're open to kind of sharing places where folks can contact you, or sharing a few kind of future aspirations, because you're still on the journey and completing your master's. And well, you haven't yet goal setted anything, but do you have anything kind of upcoming in the works?
Yeah, so upcoming, it's more so this IT project that I'm working on at work is just I have the opportunity to finally be at a space where I have really good mentors and really good people around me. And so my goal and my focus for the next couple of years is to just be like a sponge and just learn as much from these people as I can. Most of them are planning to retire after this project. And so that is a really exciting and amazing opportunity for me to just learn the stuff that you can't learn in school, or you can't learn from a book. It's the stuff you need the people around you for. The master's is something I do on a really part-time basis. I take 1 or 2 courses every year, just so that I can still manage my my sanity in terms of having a full-time job and having a master's at the works. But mostly for me, the biggest thing that I do is to keep me kind of lifted and then fill me up is this piece of my partner and I do a lot of multi-day hikes. And so that is something we plan months and months in advance. And that's kind of also the lighting up that happens for us. And then, and then you wanted some places people can reach.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So for me, I'm not a big social media person, but I am on LinkedIn. So if you just type in my name, Shalini Nagrani, and then you'll find I'm the one with the PMP at the end of my name. And then so I'm pretty open on LinkedIn to connect with folks. And then
Sounds good. And for those that will be listening and have been following me, then Shalini is also a co-author on the book that will be upcoming. So we're all obviously excited about that to bring in the next couple of months. So thanks so much, Shalini, for sharing your story, and hopefully we'll have you back for a future episode.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. Take care, and thanks so much.
Thanks for joining us on the SIWIKE Stuff I Wish I Knew Earlier, the podcast. If you like the podcast, please subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you found this podcast. And if you can give us a review, that would be very appreciated. Feel free to contact me on LinkedIn at Lukidanu, Lukidanu, and the same on most social media platforms. And I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks. Bye.